Hi, my name is Gurmeet Manku. I'm starting a new video series. This is on heart disease, part 1. This is a quick summary. So, heart disease big picture is fascinating. Heart disease is the number one killer of men and women worldwide. Number one cause of death for both men and women. At the same time, heart disease is rare or non-existent in some parts of the world. And they happen to be mostly rural and so-called primitive. So in North India, we say, yaar, ye log khate kya hai? Like, what do these people eat? And can I, as a modern urban dweller, hope to minimize my risk for heart disease to almost zero if I were to copy them somehow? The answer, as I have come to understand, is yes, I must really eat like them. But exactly how? So that is where Dr. Esselstyn's strict whole food plant-based guidelines come in. Okay, and he says heart disease is a foodborne disease. Okay, so heart disease is one of several so-called diseases of affluence. Affluence means richness. Here is a Wikipedia article, diseases of rich people. They are predominantly non-communicable diseases like type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, obesity, hypertension, and so on. Now, why are these called diseases of affluence? The story is, way back in 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it was observed that many parts of Asia, Africa, South America had low NCD rates, okay? And a few specific NCDs were actually zero. Okay, now these were predominantly, almost all of them are rural and so-called primitive places. But as modernization happened, as urbanization happened, as people got richer, the NCD rates shot up, okay? Much more prevalence. And that's why this phrase was coined disease of affluence. Now, today, in some parts of the world, some countries, it's entirely modernized and urbanized, and everybody has a similar lifestyle. So the disease of affluence world is no longer relevant within a country. But in a place like India, we still have a lot of disparity. There's a very big difference between rural people, their income levels, their lifestyle, and the modern and urban people. So we can still see the spectrum, and the disease of affluence phrase is relevant in India. Okay. Now, in terms of food, the places which had low NCDs and a few specific NCDs was like zero, they were following a low-fat, high-fiber diet. Okay. And with modernization and urbanization, it starts becoming a higher and higher fat diet and a lower and lower fiber diet. So this is the big picture of nutrition, as I have come to understand, with respect to NCDs. Now, in terms of actual foods, okay, the food plates of these cultures with low NCDs or a few specific NCDs were actually zero. They were following a largely plant-based diet and a largely whole foods diet. Now, they were not perfect. They were not 100% plant only. They were not 100% whole foods only, but a very high percentage of calories, upwards of 95, 96% were coming from plants and whole foods. But as we got richer, then 4 things happened. 1, animal products. Now, the amount of calories, the percentage calories keeps increasing from meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. And they start displacing plant-based calories. Refined grains start replacing whole grains. Macronutrient extracts like oils and sugars. Oils are fat extracts. Sugars are, refined sugars are carbohydrate extracts. They become more prominent, and ultra-processed foods come into the picture. So as an urban modern dweller, is it possible for me to forego all 4 of these and say, okay, I'm not going to touch any of them? Can I construct food plates which are nutritionally complete without any of these? The answer is yes. It turns out American College of Lifestyle Medicine has chalked out something called a whole food plant-based food plate, which looks like this. It has no animal products at all. It is only plants. Okay, there is no meat, fish, eggs, or dairy. No refined grains. It is whole grains. No oils, no sugar. These are extracts. We eat whole foods. So instead of oil, for example, we will eat nuts and seeds, actual nuts, actual seeds. Instead of sugar, we will eat the actual dates, for example, or an actual sugar cane, for example. Okay, and no ultra-processed foods. So ACLM, American College of Lifestyle Medicine, is actually mainstream medicine in USA. Okay, this is not alternative medicine. This is not fringe doctors. This is not 1 or 2 doctors. It is mainstream medicine specialty. So today we can get a license to practice lifestyle medicine, just like we get a license to practice cardiology, rheumatology, any of those specializations. Okay, so Esselstyn goes a step beyond basic whole food plant-based guidelines. He has, for example, a low-fat guideline, which he emphasizes a lot, and a few other guidelines. But let's just look at the big picture of what this food plate looks like. On the right-hand side, we can conceptualize it as just dal chawal. Okay, in North India we use the word dal chawal, which means dal means beans, peas, lentils, or beans, peas, legumes, or just beans. Chawal means rice, literally, but chawal is a placeholder for any whole grain. We can use millets, we can use amaranth, any whole grain. And we can combine the two into one combination. It's called khichdi in North India. And we can use multiple grains if we want. We can use multiple dals if we want. So a medley of one or more whole grains, one or more beans. And to make it tasty, we'll add some herbs and spices, some berries, some citrus. We can add some seeds if we want. And Esselstyn will tell us low fat, so we have to be careful with nuts and seeds. Okay, I'll come to these details later. The big picture is the right-hand side is basically dal chawal, kind of a composition. Left-hand side is low calorie density plant foods. Low calorie density means they are water rich. So calories per pound is lower. The left-hand side is a rainbow colored medley of fruits and vegetables. So we can conceptualize this as a salad. Okay, and with the same salad, we can add herbs and spices, vinegars, berries, citrus. We can make it tasty if we want. So right-hand side is dal chawal. Left-hand side is a big salad. Okay, it's a simple way to conceptualize this whole food plant-based food plate. Okay, so let's see what Dr. Esselstyn has done. So he actually is a former heart surgeon from Cleveland Clinic, a respected place in USA. He has this amazing book published in 2008. He has a very nice TED Talk. I encourage all my friends and family to watch this TED Talk. It inspired me. And he's also won a gold medal in Sydney Olympics 1952. He was part of a rowing team and he was in Stanford, I think, in those days. So he did 2 studies. There is an 18% study, small-sized pilot study, but tracked for 12 years. And if you study that, that's also insightful. But then he did a bigger study, with 198 patients. 119 had gone through stents and bypass surgeries. 44 had had a previous heart attack, and there was high cholesterol, hypertension, obesity, diabetes going on, right, in this cohort. 177 patients were adherent. Adherent means they followed Dr. Esselstyn's strict guidelines. It's not easy to follow his guidelines. 177 people did. They were tracked for 4 years. 99.4% of them, which means 176 out of 177 of these people, they avoided major cardiac events like there was no heart attack, no stroke, no death. Okay. Among the 21 non-adherent patients, 13 of them, which is 62% of them, experienced some adverse event. And examples of adverse events are heart attack, stroke, death. I think this result is actually jaw-dropping. The outcomes are amazing. And I think it's best appreciated by an actual cardiologist who knows what these people actually go through in life. Okay, so this is unheard of. Okay, so it's on the basis of Dr. Esselstyn's studies and also his experience with thousands of patients that he has treated for decades now. Dr. Sanjay Gupta made a CNN documentary called The Last Heart Attack. It's worth watching. It's almost 10 years old now. And Dr. Esselstyn has a bunch of talks. In his TED Talk, he says heart disease is a food-borne illness. Okay. Now, the reason I'm making this video series and is because India has a lot of heart disease, and I come from India originally. So, 1990 till 2017, if you look at how people died in India, NCD are going up, non-communicable diseases. These are the blue-colored deaths shown here. Half of these deaths are cardiovascular. Okay. Now, my friends and family members are unlikely to face the deaths shown in the red-colored. Okay, they are communicable, maternal, neonatal, nutritional diseases, right? Most of my friends will not face these conditions. A few will, but most not. Most of us will face these blue-colored deaths, which are NCDs, and half are cardiovascular. Okay, and this is deaths. Many more diagnoses happen. Okay, now this chart is one of the reasons why I am making all these videos, because on one hand, so many people are dying due to heart disease in India and the world over. At the same time, Dr. Esselstyn says heart disease is a food-borne illness, and his study shows that 99.4% of people who followed his diet, there was a 4-year follow-up, they had no heart attack, no stroke, no death. That jaw-dropping result, that's what inspires me, that we should look into his study and study it more deeply and study what is he teaching us, okay? So here is an amazing infographic. I hope I'm able to explain this. Let's see. So there is something called global burden of disease. data set. Okay, that's a composite data set from 7,000 researchers have contributed. It's a very large data set of death, disability, diseases, and risk factors all over the world. And I think a few hundred research papers have been written just analyzing that huge amount of data. So somebody had this amazing idea. Let's compare Indian food habits with US food habits. Okay, from the perspective of cardiovascular disease risk. Okay, so the lead author of this paper is actually in All India Institute of Medical Sciences, which is a very reputed place in India. Okay, so they looked at 1990, 2000, 2010, 2016. It's a number of years, and they compared global India and USA. And you can see dietary risks are much, much bigger than, low physical activity risks, which is sedentary life and tobacco use. Okay, let's focus on dietary risks. The red bars are India and the grey bars are USA. From the perspective of cardiovascular disease risk, Indian dietary patterns are far worse than the US food plates that we are constructing. Okay, I was amazed at this insight. Okay, so the reason is that in USA there is a very high obesity rates. Okay, obesity rates are going up a lot. Okay, now along with the obesity rates, the diet that US people have, a very large percentage of calories are coming from ultra-processed foods, for example, right? It is heavily critiqued in nutrition and medical journals that the US, on an average, diet doesn't look good, okay? Now, I was hoping, and so do many people, we all believe that Indian diet must be much, much better than the US diet from cardiovascular disease protection perspective, but it's not true, okay? So, this blew my mind away, and I have now started understanding the underlying reason, like what is making this worse. We have to understand nutrition, and very few people understand nutrition. Okay, so let's look at another twist in the story. Nature Cure and Naturopathy guidelines are an ancient healing system from India, which are protected and promoted by Ayush Ministry, Government of India. Okay, Mahatma Gandhi was a huge fan of Nature Cure. In fact, Naturopathy Day in India is celebrated in remembrance of Mahatma Gandhi founding the All India Nature Cure Foundation way back in 1945. So what is this Nature Cure Naturopathy thing? Very few people know about it. I learned of it only like 4 years ago. Okay, I grew up in India. My parents had not heard of it. Hardly anybody around me knows about it. Very few people know it, but it's there. The foundations of Nature Cure Naturopathy are Kandamul, Phalphul, Patti Pani. I personally am totally fascinated by this phrase because it's a description of different fruits and vegetables. Okay, and this is the foundation of a peaceful forest dwellers food system. So, what does all this mean? In India, we have a tradition of spiritual pursuits in remote areas like forests. That's where people might go and do meditation. Okay, they live in the forest away from the humdrum of modern life. So what would such people eat? They don't kill animals or birds or insects or worms. They subsist on natural foods which are coming from plants. And this is a description of that food system. Kandamul, Phalphul, Patti Pani. Okay, but in the modern world, we don't just have to live on fruits and vegetables. We can eat grains and beans and a few nuts and seeds and some herbs and spices. This whole composite food system is modern Nature Cure Naturopathy. Okay, and then it starts coinciding with Whole Food Plant-Based Guidelines by ACLM, American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So that is the elegance and the beauty of these, different approaches, different cultures are converging to the same essential principles about how to construct excellent food plates. and that's what brings me joy. So the same food plates are amazingly high fiber and they are amazingly heart healthy. Okay. Plus, they are highly anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer. I'll make videos on this separately, but the focus of this video series is heart health, right? And a few Nature Cure Naturopathy practitioners are on YouTube from where we can pick up some knowledge. Here are a few that have inspired me. There are many, many more, but only a few are on YouTube. Okay, so I think we should replicate Esselstyn's study using Nature Cure or Naturopathy principles along with an understanding of what Dr. Esselstyn has discovered. Let's combine the two and do like a large study, 4,000-person study broken into 20 cohorts, 200% each, with a 4 to 10 year follow-up. Okay, this will require a fair amount of funding. This is a large study, but look at what we are studying. We are studying an ancient healing system, Nature Cure Naturopathy. We can see it as Whole Food Plant-Based Guidelines. Let's study both systems, come up with something close to Esselstyn's guidelines, and study it in India. India has a lot of heart disease. Okay, this might turn out to be one of those landmark studies which affects public health in a big way. Okay, okay. So here is the video series I'm making. Basically, I'll walk us through some statistics on heart disease. Then I'll explain atherosclerosis, what causes heart attacks, are stents and angioplasty helpful. What does a single high-fat meal do to us? What is total body ischemia? So I kind of paint the picture as I have understand of heart disease and heart attacks. Next, I'll talk about cultures which have zero heart disease, documented in medical literature. Okay, and then I'll touch upon disease of affluence, and then the connection with the low-fiber diet, high-fat diet, and how, as we get affluent, we start having more animal foods, more processed foods. We gravitate towards high calorie density foods, and our food system starts becoming low fat, high fiber. The opposite, actually. High fat, low fiber. And if we reverse the trend, we start having a low fat, high fiber diet, okay, which is the one that Dr. Esselstyn recommends. And then I'll cover Dr. Esselstyn and Ornish and the role of stress and exercise. And then I'll go into whole food, plant-based, nature cure, breakfast, lunch. I'll cover all this in a series of videos. And then a few more videos covering additional points. Okay, so I'm writing articles at Thankful to Plants. And if you like this video and the video series, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much.